Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Get Weird About. As I'll remind you, every episode this season is on stuff that I have to talk about. And to that end, guys, it's me. Blame me for the fact that you're going to listen to a long discussion about just a rotten to the core piece of media. So, at least we have Quill to take the edge off a bit. So, join us for a discussion about Boondock Saints. Have fun with and stuff. Sorry, I'm setting up my by lighting. If you see my stuff all move around.
Deeply important.
You got to get the mood right,
Yeah, I don't know if bisexual lighting is the mood for Boondock Saints.
We need to reclaim it somehow.
I don't know if we do. I'll be honest.
No, we gotta fix this shit. Okay, we're
now fix. I can give you that could be interesting. Reclaim.
There's always been a certain amount of script doctoring that happens when I start talking about some of these projects. Yes. Properties. Right. I'm not sure how much I can do on Boondock Saints. I don't know. We'll have to get into it. I guess we've now started. Yeah. I was gonna warm up for a little bit longer, but you just
look.
That's fine. That's good.
I'm here to do the thing. Okay,
yeah, it's fine. It's all good. Yeah. We're busy busy people with busy lives. Audience, y'all know Quill.
Hi, I'm Quill.
Yeah, Quill's been here before. You can go listen to either episode about fucking Homestuck, and what was the other one?
Friends at the Table.
Friends at the Table. Yeah. So we got plenty. You've heard all about his story and shit. But this season, this is the Scott gets to talk about the shit he wants to talk about season. So today we're talking about fucking Boondock Saints.
We are. It's true. And don't worry, I have a round 4 planned. If a round 4 happens, I know exactly what it's going to be already. But yes, the Boondock Saints.
So we have to start this episode off with the heaviest of sighs and
yes,
the
disclaimer.
Just I don't know. I have to start off just with the hefty amount of guilt of the kind of person I was when I unironically loved this movie.
This is a Fight Club. This is a Fight Club.
I also have that same association in my head. Fight Club and Boondock Saints are some of those movies that I think that if you are a young man in between the ages of anything under maybe 30, I'm not sure you should watch either of those movies.
Right. It's do you have the requisite ability to critique what is and parse what is being said.
And the thing is, the difference though is that Fight Club, if you have the critical reading skills, is actually saying some really interesting shit.
Yes,
Tyler Durden as the problem is that Tyler Durden is so charismatic as a character that he sells the audience the same way that he sells the patsies in the story. He turns the audience into space monkeys.
Yes, that actor whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. Yes, is extremely good at that.
Yes, and to that effect. But if you're willing to dig deep, if you've got a bachelor's degree in liberal arts and you're willing to do the close reading, that movie has some shit to say. And the thing is that Boondock Saints doesn't.
I think I understand what it's attempting to say.
It doesn't have
sort of.
You don't need to dig into it. It says its shit. Fucking loud and clear.
Right. And it also says it extremely aggressively during the end credits. The end credit scene is just we are explaining the thesis of the film.
Troy Duffy does not have a subtle bone in his goddamn body.
Right.
So
yeah, clearly.
I always try to approach these for the most part as if you could just listen to them without knowing the property as at all. That's, I mean, we're not going to give a detailed diatribe about what this movie is, but we do need to give the broadest possible strokes of what Boondock Saints is. Boondock Saints is the 1990 movie, or released in 1999, by Troy Duffy. It is his baby. It was a thing that he did on his own. It is a kind of an angry screed of a movie. It is about two Irish brothers living on the streets of Boston. Not streets, but they're living in a rundown shithole, working in a meat factory
the most rundown shithole I've ever
but somehow still
seen
so
in a
cool.
film.
It fucking anyway. And then I mean, there's a kind of mystique to the hard ass. We'll get to that.
Sure, right.
And they're working like mundane jobs, and they go to they're good Catholic boys. They go to mass every morning, and they get in fights, and they inadvertently face off against the Russian mob. And then they both have the same like religious awakening in the middle of the night, where they decide, wait, what if we just killed evil guys? Like that's our whole thing now. They have the shared dream.
Is that how you interpreted that? I see that now that you say that.
Yeah, it hit me this time that it's much more religious than I originally thought. I thought it was...
Oh, no, I knew it was religious. I didn't realize...
we could talk about that in more detail. Yeah. All right, so they have like a shared religious dream. They've already got like this fucked up upbringing where like their mom taught them all these like languages and stuff, and their dad's not in the picture, but we'll find out where he comes from too, which explains a lot about them. And then so they decide, okay, we're gonna kill fucking mobsters now. That's our thing. And they kind of bumble their way through doing it amazingly. Like
they bumble so hard.
They're such idiots. And I forgot how stupid they are in the text.
Yes.
And they bumble their way through it and accidentally masterfully cap this off. And then they I am skipping over one of the subplots here. We'll get back to the FBI agent in a second. So they go through there. Then they have they have a friend who works for the Italian mob. And they team up with him. He's like, hey, I know everybody's secrets. I know where they go. I know where they fuck. I know we could kill everybody. And
he's the package boy.
Yeah, he's the package boy. And they have, and his mob, he's now soured on the mob. So they go to start killing everybody, and they do it. They're actually really quite good at it, while also being idiots. So the mob responds by they're like, okay, we need the master assassin, the guy who kills everybody. So they go and get Il Duce. And they release Il Duce, and then the brothers get caught on their final mission to go kill the main Italian mob boss. And Il Duce comes after, and their Italian friend dies. And Il Duce shows up, and it turns out that Il Duce is their fucking dad. And so they team up, all three of them now, to just start going off and killing bad guys. And it ends on them taking over a courthouse with the help of all of the police, so they can just like publicly execute this mob boss.
Crucially, with the explicit help of an FBI agent and several Boston cops.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it ends with the credits over where they are interviewing people on the street about these dudes. And it's a bunch of people, some amount of them being like, oh, this fucking sucks. But a huge number of them being like, yeah, sign me up. I'll do anything.
Yeah.
Now, during that summary, I left out any mention of the FBI agent played
of
masterfully.
The best character in the film easily, despite everything about him.
Yeah, played masterfully by Willem Dafoe. And he is he's actually the sort of in a lot of ways the framing device, kind of the main character of the film in a lot of ways. At least at like tertiary and protagonist, if not like a straight up the protagonist. He is called in because he's like the world expert in crime scenes, and he's got a huge dossier on all of the mob members, and he's like tracking everything down. And they do this thing over the course of the movie where he is shown a crime scene. We have not seen what has happened to result in this crime scene, and we
get a backwards Ocean's 11.
And he walks through it, usually often listening to classical music, and explains what happened, and then we get to see the action. So he is like the lens through which we see the cool action sequences.
And I want to point out, when we say listening to classical music, that is not like the soundtrack of the film. That is, he has a CD on a Discman
on his belt to listen to it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he like has a crisis of faith once he figures out who these guys are, because he knows them. And he's like, oh, these are good guys. Crap, they're killing bad guys. They're good guys. I agree with them. And we'll talk about the scene where he has finally convinced to do that in a little bit. And then signs up to help them. And so in the final crescendo, the climax of the film, he goes to help them, dressed in drag. I guess I didn't mention up until this point that he's gay, which has made a big deal in this movie. Because this movie does not know what to make of gay people.
It really doesn't.
It really, really doesn't. And so he shows up in drag, seduces one of the dudes, and kills like one of the mobsters, and then gets knocked out ineffectually by Il Duce, and then doesn't play a part, except and then he helps them out at the very last scene. So kind of like we can't dive into the Willem Dafoe dialogue just yet, because we got to talk about the like surface level shit.
The first, yes. The thing that I want to make clear about this movie is that it is a collection of absolutely fascinating scenes that are really fun and cool to watch, and often have like either a funny or legitimately very good action or whatever the case may be, with like zero connective tissue, like none at all. They completely allied like major like points of transition, and it's just like, yes, this happened, don't worry about it. Like,
and the thing is, it totally gets by on that.
It
knows what this movie kind of knows what it's doing, in the sense of like, we are going to show you big fun action sequences and also dudes being fucking morons. Like that is our bread and butter, and we're just going to do that, and anything that's not that, we're not going to spend a lot of time on.
The whole film is every dude is a moron, even the smart guy.
Yes, everyone is dumb. So the principle. Okay, I can't talk about the thing I really want to talk about until we talk about the thesis of this movie, which is that retributive justice, eye for an eye, capital punishment, kill people who we deem evil, is fucking awesome, and that's how the world should be run. That's the thesis of this movie.
You think that's the thesis?
Okay.
Because I think it's not.
Okay.
I think it's specifically capital punishment and an eye for an eye is the moral territory of idiots.
No, I don't think Troy Duffy is that self-aware.
No. In fact, I see you. I can see you read. But if that were the case,
we're getting into. Okay, so this is the sucker punch problem, because I know the creator, and I know that he is a smooth brain idiot. Like this, he is a dumbass.
He doesn't know what he's done.
He doesn't. So I can imagine a smarter person than Troy Duffy making this movie and it meaning more than it did, although it wouldn't be this movie. But like Troy Duffy has specifically said that the reason he wrote this movie is because he saw somebody take money off of a a person who was high on drugs at the time across the hall from him. He saw a person on drugs get robbed, and he got so mad that he wrote this movie because he couldn't fix this problem himself. Like that's the shithole he was living in.
Our system is broken, and so the correct thing to do is vigilante justice.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
And that's explicitly why he wrote this movie, and he's
cool.
Yeah. So he's absolutely done it. So unlike Fight Club, if you start digging into this movie, the things that you can find interesting meaning there. Again, the idea, I don't think you're wrong about, you can read that this is a stupid philosophy, because it's this philosophy of dumbasses, because everybody in this movie is a dumbass.
Right.
But that is something that you brought to this movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I don't disagree.
Yeah. So we have to start with Kitty Genovese.
God, I forgot that was the opening thing.
So
Jesus Christ.
The literally, like, I think before you see anything else, you see these kids and these guys in church, and they are listening to a sermon by a Catholic priest talking about the parable of Kitty Genovese, which famously in all of culture is this tale of when a young woman was attacked at night on a public street, and that nearly 40 people saw this attack happen and nobody did anything. And it supposedly took more than 30 minutes for it to happen, and nobody did anything. Nobody even called the police until she was dead. Okay. That version of the story is not just incomplete, it is factually wrong. The story of Kitty Genovese is a young lesbian woman. This is always dropped from her story, but she was openly queer, living with her longtime girlfriend, who only died in like 2021, I think.
Like recently.
Yeah, really recently. A young woman, this is the 1950s, living in New York. She was coming home from her bartending job. She was attacked by a man. It was not seen by 40 people. There were some people who heard her cries through windows. And famously, when this happened, some of these people almost immediately called the police. The one thing that everybody says didn't happen. No, famously, like immediately they called the police. And here's the thing. This was in, I believe, the Bronx. The police, it was a bad neighborhood. And they said, fuck it, we're not going.
Right.
Yeah. This is actually a story of how you cannot fucking trust the police. Even when you call them, they will not show up. So a young woman is attacked. She is brutally attacked and murdered. Unfortunately, that part of the story is true. But the people around her either didn't know what had happened or they actually did do the best they could. But it should be noted, it is 3 a.m. in New York in the 50s. It's not a great idea to then, like, you hear a noise, let's go investigate or anything like that.
Right.
That doesn't seem...
I think someone is screaming because they're being attacked. I will go see what's going on. This will surely end well for me.
Exactly. So... And so, unfortunately, she's bleeding out when I believe she's still alive when the paramedics arrive, like a half an hour to an hour later. The police don't show up for like 4 hours. And then get this, they spend most of their time grilling her girlfriend who's at home.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like, because she happens to be gay. So they're like, oh, surely this must be...
This is a crime of lesbian passions.
Yeah. And just completely bungled
There's a very good episode on the You're Wrong About podcast that's about this. It might have been their first episode. Actually,
it is a thing where and like, I think almost that if you include the traditional narrative of Genovese in your work, I think almost invariably, like, that just invalidates everything the rest of the work is going to say. Like, which is why The Watchmen sucks.
This is also me bringing my knowledge of that and me going, yes. And again, also, this movie's, 24 years old at this point, which is before really it was sort of like broadly known culturally that story is sort of bunk.
I mean, this is just some shit Troy Duffy heard.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, basically. Yeah, really, he's like, this is a good thing. And like, it does sound like the sort of thing that like a priest at the time would use as like a sermon material.
But the movie repeats it uncritically and uses it as justification for as an inciting incident for the rest of the shit that happens. It's like what's ringing in these kids' ears. And it's just wrong. Okay. It's just 100% completely wrong.
Also, I do not understand what was happening in that scene, what the brothers were doing. I don't understand.
So my best interpretation, because to describe to the audience in case you don't remember, they're kind of out of sync with the rest of Mass. Like everybody else comes up from praying and they're still praying for a while. And there's a guest member of the clergy who's there to do part of the thing, and they swap out for the usual guy. And then while the usual guy is doing his speech, they go up, like they like walk up the aisle and like pray at the altar itself. They walk past the priest and pray at like Jesus's fucking feet. And then they leave in the middle of the thing. And
they kiss the side of Jesus's calves of statue Jesus.
And like and it's made clear that this is unusual because the visiting priest is like, what the fuck? But you see like the guy next to him be like, no, dude, it's fine. It's cool.
Don't worry about it.
So the best explanation I can think of is that obviously these dudes are weirdos, but they have somehow gotten the respect of the local clergy and are allowed to just sort of break the rules.
Yeah, I guess we're like everybody at this church is just like, yeah, we've got these two weirdos. They do this weird thing. It's fine. They do it and then it's fine. And it's like, this is how they participate in worship, I guess.
And I think
me watching it,
here's why I think it exists in the movie. If you think that Troy Duffy is a competent filmmaker, which I'm not sure is true, but if you want to explain why this works, because one of the rules this universe operates in is that the McManus brothers do not follow the rules of society. They are not going to be punished for breaking the rules. They can do what they need to do. And so in the very first scene, this happens. They're not doing what everybody else does. And
is this the first scene or is that the second scene?
It's before the scene where we're about to talk about with rule of thumb, if that's what you're asking.
No. Okay. Oh yeah, rule of thumb.
Yeah, we're going to talk about rule of thumb too.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't remember which one came first.
Yeah. So this is like the very first thing you do. So like these guys just do shit. Like it's made clear in the narrative that like the rules don't apply to these guys. They are going to do what they're going to do and they're going to be right to do it. And like even the people who are in authority are going to be like, sure, they can get away with it, which means sets up the rest of the goddamn movie in that sense.
Yeah, no, totally. That's
the best explanation. I don't know that's right because again, I think Troy Duffy doesn't know what he's doing, but like I think it works.
That is genuinely a through line through the film, though. That is absolutely correct.
Because
that's a good point.
Even it's not the fact of being a saint, because like Rocco tries to do what they do, and he gets punished by the narrative.
He can't do it.
Yeah, he's not. He's he's equally a dumbass as they are, but he doesn't really produce any kind of or add anything to their thing, and then he dies. But the thing
about Rocco, the reason that happens to Rocco, if you're taking like the film's more like the theme, the moral of the film as you have distilled it, right? Rocco doesn't follow the code.
Yes.
Right?
You could also entirely say that Rocco, this is giving a really charitable read to Troy Duffy, but you could actually say we watch Rocco commit sexual assault on screen.
We do.
And
that is true.
Therefore, we know for a fact that he is a bad enough person to deserve death.
That is also true.
That's a valid interpretation as well. Okay. So, but anyway, okay. So I've talked about Kitty Genovese. Can I talk now? We're going to talk about rule of thumb because I also don't know what to make of this other character. All right.
I was like, oh, this is Fortune Feimster.
Maybe.
No, it is.
Oh, it is?
That's literally who it is.
Oh shit! I did not recognize her.
That's who that person is.
So the scene we're talking about is we get a little brief scene of the brothers who are Connor and Seamus.
I'll be honest, I don't remember their fucking names. I'm just like Norman Reedus and the other one.
Sean Patrick Flannery, who's from Louisiana, interestingly enough. But they are doing their meatpacking job and they're being dumbasses while doing it, hitting each other with drumsticks and intestines. And one of them, I believe it is Sean Patrick Flannery's character, is asked to chaperone a newbie who's on her first day, who is the most lesbian coded character I think I've ever seen. She is a large, burly woman.
Sorry, it's not Fortune Feimster.
Oh, okay.
It's Dot Marie Jones.
Okay.
Who I don't know why I got them mixed up, but I did.
Yeah.
They're both tall, burly women is I think what happened there. And I recognize this person.
I think she's wearing
from 20 years ago.
She's either wearing a flannel shirt with the sleeves cut off, or she has got the flannel shirt with the sleeves cut off energy. She's got
she has the vibes. Yeah. Okay, because this is where I know I'm pretty sure this is Fortune Feimster. Is the football coach from Glee.
Okay.
These are the same vibes. Yeah.
And so the big burly woman working at a meat factory. She's got a neck tattoo, and so she's being chaperoned around by Sean Patrick Flannery, he's like, okay, so the rule of thumb here is, and she stops him and then gathers the attention of the crowd to talk about how the rule of thumb is from an antiquated legal precedent that it was until very recently legal to beat your wife with an implement so long as it was no bigger than a thumb. And he responds with, well, you couldn't do much damage with that. Should have been a rule of wrist. And then she kicks him in the nuts, and then his brother punches her. And that's where we end that scene for some reason.
Yes. Okay. So two things. First off, they have simultaneously conflated in this single character, look how weird this butch lesbian is, and this is a shrill feminist.
Yes. Especially because, okay, and again, this wouldn't bug me, but this bugs me because they were just fucking wrong about Kitty Genovese, and this movie is also wrong about that.
They're just they're just uncritically being like, this is like a standard cultural,
cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
When that is just wrong. That's not true. It was. At various times, it has been legal to beat your wife, but there has never been any rule about what size implement you're allowed to do with it. And rule of thumb, as best anybody can guess, comes from carpentry because you often use your thumb as a measurement. And in fact, the very first instance we ever have of anybody using the phrase rule of thumb is talking about how inexpert carpenters use the rule of thumb instead of measuring things for real. Talking about how shitty
instead of a ruler.
Yeah, instead of using a ruler. But okay, so the reason why this character perplexes me is because, not perplexes me, I think about this character a lot because this movie does not know what to do with gay people. It has this incredibly lesbian coded woman who cannot be interpreted any other way, especially if it's 1999. And then we have Willem Dafoe's character who is simultaneously the incredibly camp but then also weirdly homophobic himself.
He's like the weird. He's like I would almost say self-hating gay, except he doesn't seem to have any problems with being gay, and in fact actively gets offended when someone else is homophobic towards him.
Yes, but also does not seem to like other gay people very much.
Right. I don't, again, the film doesn't know what to do with him. I don't know what to do with him as like in terms of his sexuality.
Yes.
Right. And that's even without getting into the last scene of the film.
Yes. Which is like a whole thing. Yeah. But like
it's a whole thing.
So like when he's interacting with the cops, he has no problem being very effeminate and quite camp with the cops. He is very obviously a gay man, like thumbing his nose at the straights and like tweaking them and like knowing that he also, because he is a FBI agent and in charge of the investigation, he has power over these guys, and he's having so much fun like messing with these dudes
and being like intentionally smarter than them, including, did you catch what his coffee order is?
It's cappuccino something sweet and low.
It's a cafe latte with a twist of lemon.
Yeah.
And sweet and low, which is nonsense. This man, like, what?
Yeah. So he's very, I mean, like, he doesn't hide it. He's not the straight man who pretends to be, or he's not a gay man who pretends to be straight. He's not like, he's also not the like often in movies that don't know what to do with gay people, they'll be like, well, they'll show the good gay is like basically a straight guy who like, happens
to have a husband or whatever.
But like, no, he is very, very queer and like does not seem to have a problem with it. And the movie also kind of doesn't seem to have a problem with him. Like he's treated very well by the movie.
Yes.
And like
he like you said, he's arguably the hero of the movie, and he's definitely the smartest person in the film by a wide margin.
But he also, like in the scene where we see him in bed with a man, the young Asian twink who he's cuddling with tries to like cuddle with them, and he like slaps the dude, like smacks him on the side of the head, and then the guy's like, I just wanted to cuddle, and he's like, oh, what an F word. Like he like, and it's like, what's your deal, dude? Do you like men or not?
Right. He's like, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah. I cannot.
Well, but then also the movie presents that the guy he's in bed with, who's like, to be clear, does not come back on screen, does not seem to be a long-term partner, is like pretty clearly like a one-night stand situation, and presents him in the most stereotypical effeminate gay like light, to the point where like this guy gets a call in the middle of the night, is clearly doing a work call, and they're about a murder scene,
very much. And
not the partner is like, oh, I'm gonna snuggle, and it's like, not read the room, my dude. Like,
it's not a very charitable writing of that character either. And then also, I again, because the only way I can model why this all works is because I don't think Troy Duffy understands what being gay kind of is. Like he's able to like mimic the characteristics, and I think that Willem Dafoe brings a lot to that character. He
genuinely wrote this, the gay man is just like, what if I took the like bimbo archetype and made it a guy instead?
Not exactly. No, I'm talking about Willem Dafoe. Like, he's smart. He's like smart, super competent, or all those things. But he like, and the reason why I know that Troy Duffy doesn't understand anything about gay people is because we've seen the scene that he sets in a quote unquote gay bar, which is the strangest gay bar I've ever seen. It is nothing but dark wood everywhere.
Right.
Everyone is in suits.
It's so fancy.
It's incredibly fancy.
It's like a cocktail lounge for the rich and powerful. Like,
it would make sense as like the place where a villain would go to have a scotch in the middle of a different movie. And instead it's filled with gay men who are just men in suits, but all happen to be like kind of close to one another, and then has a very femme, very camp bartender who, for some reason, when insulted by Willem Dafoe, does not swear back at him.
He huffs.
Yeah,
right.
He huffs. And
like, he says, like an effeminate gay man.
This is like, I think it was "smell you" or something like that is his retort back. It's the lamest retort in the whole goddamn movie.
I truly don't remember.
It is so bad. And so it's like, if this is your, if you, Troy Duffy, the straightest man in the world, this is what you think a gay bar is like, then obviously you just don't have any idea what queer culture is like, even a little bit. I'm a straight dude and I could write a better gay bar than this. Like, But I will absolutely praise Willem Dafoe's performance here.
Oh my God, he's incredible. Yeah. He's incredible. His acting like this. Okay, yeah. So when you brought up the Boondock Saints and I said, oh my God, I will talk about the Boondock Saints with you. I have not seen, until I watched it a couple days ago, I have not seen it for years and years, probably at least a decade.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And the thing that stuck in my mind, like basically the only thing I remembered about this were like, I remember the brothers are like Irish and very religious. I think Irish Catholic, presumably. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember that Willem Dafoe gives the most like incredible, insane performance of that I've maybe ever seen in anything outside of like Romeo plus Juliet.
Yeah.
To the point where there's a quote that comes near the end of the scene from him when he drops down onto his knees and he just yells into the sky, and it's stuck in my brain, especially because this came out like, or not, I watched it having my primary familiarity with Willem Dafoe being Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm watching Norman Osborn do this role.
And I'd seen this movie way more than I'd seen Spider-Man. So like to me, it's like, oh, dude, Agent Smucker, something, whatever. The dude from Boondock Saints is up on screen right now.
Right.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe does... I need to go back and watch more of his performances and other stuff, because like the things that I've seen him in, I don't necessarily I mean, he does this in Spider-Man too. He just throws his whole fucking ass into it. He commits so hard to the whole thing.
So hard. Yeah.
And he makes choices and he commits to them, even if they're a little bit strange, and somehow makes them work.
Right. Because it's just everything. He just throw it like, and this film in particular, he's just, I don't know if I'm using this turn of phrase right, but in my brain, he is chewing the scenery.
Yes.
Like 100% of this film. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely. And he's playing a character that in certain circumstances would be the villain of a narrative, because he's like the smart ass who knows better than everybody. And you feel like he's going to get his comeuppance later on. And he just doesn't.
He doesn't.
Like he fucking.
It's just like, no, he's right, actually.
Yeah, no, he's right, actually.
Yeah.
And the narrative of, I gotta think of the character's name, because in my head it's just Willem Dafoe, but
it's like Strucker. Here, I had it pulled up on you.
Smecker.
Smecker, which is a name that anyone has ever had before for sure.
Yeah. So he plays Agent Paul Smecker, and the narrative of Agent Paul Smecker is that he's the smart FBI guy who is trying to figure out the mystery of all these killings that happens. He realizes who it was. There's these guys from the first scene who were just defending themselves and were cool guys and that he liked really well. And so he gets very, very drunk at the weirdest gay bar in the world. And he stumbles out at like 6 a.m. on a Boston morning and finds his way into a Catholic church, which just so happens to have the McManus brothers are in there for their morning prayer service. He gets followed.
Because at this point, critically, at this point, they have to be at the morning prayer service because they've been doing murders and are on the lam.
Yes.
So you got to go to church in the morning.
Yes.
I guess.
And Rocco, their Italian friend dumbass, who has already been saying like, man, this agent, FBI guy is going to be a problem. We should kill him. He follows Agent Smecker in, and then one of the brothers, I forget which one because they're kind of interchangeable, follows Rocco follows them, and they all end up in the confessional. So Smecker is in one thing. We have the priest and Rocco in the next one over, and then one of the McManus brothers in the next one. And so you have this weird, like almost Shakespearean comedy of errors scene.
It is the Midsummer Night Dream ass.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like a scene out of Twelfth Night that like,
it really
because
is.
Like the Smecker is having a conversation with the priest. The priest literally has a gun held to his head at that moment by Rocco, who's like, tell him what he wants to hear. Tell him that he wants to help these guys, whatever. He's trying to like communicate with them. And then you have one of the brothers who's like holding a gun on Rocco being like, don't you fucking kill a priest. God damn it.
Right. Because critically, the thing we haven't said yet is the brothers like code, the thing they're doing.
Yes.
Right. The thing that they are doing is they are here to kill evildoers.
Yes.
Right. They have decided that the thing they're going to do is murder all the bad guys, which means crucially and this comes up a couple times with Rocco, like the brothers are like, oh, this FBI agent is on to us, or he will be soon.
Yeah.
And Rocco goes, he's a liability. You should get him. And they're like, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it. Right. Which is why Rocco follows him into the confessional booth in the first place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. So, and this is, I guess, why the brothers get to get away with it, whatever they want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they have a code. The brothers, okay. Genuine, I know I'm interrupting the thing again. The brothers are D&D paladins.
Okay, yeah, I accept that. Yeah.
Like straight up.
Yeah.
Like they're all charisma and no brain. They have a code that they follow without question, and
somehow divine intervention,
God in the form of plot, rewards them for it. Right?
Yeah, I'm down with that. Could be one of the reasons why this movie sticks with me in my brain. So, and then now we got to get to the. Back
to the confessional.
Yeah, so they're in the confessional. They feed the priest feeds them some lines and convinces Smecker, or lets Smecker talk himself into helping these kids. And they make contact. The kids are the boys are saying that they're going to attack the mob leader that night, and then Smecker finds out that Il Duce is on the loose, and then also that the mob boss is expecting the brothers. We don't see the brothers get captured, very interestingly, but they somehow get captured while trying to come in through the basement at the mob boss's house.
This is what I mean when I say, we don't see any connective tissue. Yeah. We don't see them get captured. We just hear, oh, they're on the lookout for these. They're expecting to show. Yeah. They're expecting them to show up, and then they're in the basement, which I don't hate. I don't hate that thing. Also, the thing where you say, oh, well, now the FBI agent and the brothers are working together. Yeah. That you said that at the exact same pacing and amount of explanation that the film gives. We get the scene in the confessional,
and then the next scene they're already on the phone talking to each other.
The next scene they're talking to each other on different payphones.
Yeah. It's well, and in a way I have to praise Troy Duffy, because he doesn't waste time. Like a lot of writers, and very possibly earlier drafts of this same script, would have had a scene where we explain how the two of them got numbered or anything, and instead they're just like, nah, that doesn't matter. Like once they're on the side, they're just
is now they're together, and that's fine.
And we'll just skip over all that because your brain can intuit. It's almost a montage of a movie where we just any information that we don't need, we just don't see. So Agent Smecker, knowing that the boys are now in trouble, dresses in drag, and shows up pretending to be a prostitute, and kisses one of the mob guys who's like, oh man, I'm so goddamn horny, I have to fuck this prostitute right now. Despite the fact that men are coming to kill us right now. Right.
Specifically, the most dangerous man in the world, who my boss has specifically said, watch the house. I'm leaving.
I'm running away.
Because this man is coming. Yeah. Watch it. It'll be fine. That's why I'm running away.
Which just says, I guess, how epically horny this particular mob guy was, I guess.
Right.
He hadn't been laid in a week, he says. Anyway.
Yes. Oh my God, a whole week.
Poor dude. Anyway. Willem Dafoe seduces him very strangely by writhing on the floor. He accidentally.
It's a lot.
It's a very this is the one part where I'm not sure Willem Dafoe sells me on that particular. I am with him. I'm with Willem the whole way through the rest of the movie. This particular thing is where I'm like, you're making a choice here, and it does not follow me, man.
For me, this is Willem doing the best he can with a really, really rough script.
It's a very strange idea. I think again, we'll get to script doctoring later, because if we start now, we'll never stop. He kills one mob guy, the guy while he's writhing on the floor, his wig slips, and the guy's like, oh my God, it's a dude, despite the fact that it was Willem Dafoe this whole fucking time. Yeah. And because here's the thing, that's script doctoring. I can't say it.
Willem Dafoe in dress and wig and full face of makeup.
Yes. So Willem Dafoe, who kicks this guy in the nuts, which is the go-to move for, I guess, less masculine people in this movie, and he then shoots the guy with a silenced pistol, and then he walks out into the room to rescue the brothers. And
God, that's true. We do have two different gay people just kicking somebody in the nuts, huh? That does happen. Yes. That's
a choice.
If I had two nickels, it's not that much money, but it's weird that it happened twice.
No, right? And so he goes out to that was his hero moment where he helped, and then he goes out and he finds that all of the other mobsters are fucking dead.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, he shoots one more.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He shoots one more with the silenced pistol, and then he's like walking around like looking.
And he finds one with his throat cut.
Out.
And then Il Duce, who we haven't really talked about, but we'll get to, who has previously said that one of his rules is no women, no kids. He sees Willem Dafoe and I guess mistakes him for a woman.
I didn't even think about that.
Important plot point that they dropped away. And he clocks Willem on the back of the head and then goes off. And then this is the scene where we reveal that Il Duce is actually the McManus brothers' father.
God, that's the whole reason they have him in drag for this bit.
That must be right.
Fucking sneaking in. That's literally the whole.
That's probably which may be the whole reason that Willem Dafoe's character is gay. Like it might just that might be Troy Duffy's.
Yeah, we have to give him a justification for being in drag, and the answer is, well, I guess he's gay. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, okay. So that's Willem Dafoe's character. All right, now we're going to talk about Il Duce. Because here's the thing I haven't mentioned until now. It's Billy fucking Connolly. Like, the big yin himself. The most famous comedian out of Scotland of all time. Like...
Wild.
Yes. It's the guy who...
I don't have any context for this, to be
I
clear.
would highly recommend anybody go look at Billy Connolly's comedy. He is one of the original alternative comedians. He's like the guy who him and Lenny Bruce in a lot of ways set up modern comedy. His style of comedy, the thing is, the story is that Billy Connolly is a folk singer. He plays the banjo and I forgot remember the name of the other thing. It's the auto harp. And he was in a band with another a guy who became more popular as a singer than him, Billy Rafferty. I think they were called, I cannot remember the name of their band. Anyway, he started a solo career and he wasn't all that great. He's a good musician, but he's not a great musician. And what happened is that the bits between his songs got longer and longer as he just talked and entertained people until eventually he didn't have to bring a banjo on stage anymore. And he was just a comedian. He was just
doing stand-up instead.
He's like, I found out I was a comedian in the newspaper. Like, cause I read an article about me calling me a comedian. Fucking love it. He has a billion specials. They're all available for not usually on streaming and stuff. He also has a great series of television shows that are just him traveling around various parts of the world. He's got like the travel log stuff, usually in some sort of, he's usually riding a motorcycle or like a trike or something. They're great. He's an incredibly sweet, very personable guy, at least in his later years once he stopped drinking.
Sure.
And for him to show up as Il Duce is so strange to me. It is just a bizarre, because Il Duce is introduced as like an animal man in a cell. Like they're talking about him like he's the ghost. He's like the most dangerous man in the world.
They move him through a maximum security prison that just looks like Alcatraz. Yes. Like if you've ever visited Alcatraz, it's just that. And then the way they move him
is they have him chained to a trolley cart and are
they have him chained
to
a trolley with like a post on it, right? And they like radio, he's on the way, and there's like 6 snipers, one at every level of the building above him, that train a rifle down. Yep. Like
they all cock their shotguns, and
it's legitimately like watching them transport Magneto.
And then they bring him before a board of people, and they drop a fucking cage over the top of him,
right?
Like a tureen.
It's the most. This is a supervillain ass thing I've ever seen.
And then immediately he is paroled by the parole board, which is that is an excellent bit. That is so funny.
It's very funny.
It is a really
especially because again, this is happening sort of popping back and forth sort of with the conversation between the mob boss and like the previous mob boss, who are like the mob boss was like, we got to bring in Il Duce. When I was a little kid, you and Papa told me that this was the guy you brought in when you needed something fixed. Yeah. Right. Which, from the mob boss's perspective, the thing he needs fixed is this former package boy who everybody knows is a moron is killing his dude.
But he's good at it.
You need the scariest man on earth to deal with this guy.
But he's been doing a good job of it, is the thing. Like he got away with it because plot armor.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It is it is a good bit.
Again, everyone in this movie is an idiot.
Yes, exactly. And then so we see Il Duce. They have a brief confrontation in the firefight scene that you were talking about earlier, where the brothers and Rocco, in designating the next target, have decided to go after the mob's other big hitman. I forget what he doesn't even have a name. I don't think he's just called.
I don't even think he gets a name. No,
I think he's called like the scary guy or something.
Well, and critically, Rocco describes his one night with this guy where he like drives him to a house as the worst night of his life, and he watches this guy with no emotion or anything just murks a whole family. They dump their bodies in a dumpster, rolled in carpet, light it on fire, like including children.
Yes.
Like this dude seems like to be legitimately a terrible piece of work.
So they go to kill this guy, and Rocco, because he's the package boy, knows that there's a poker game, and they manage to get into the poker game by like going.
Wait till the sun.
Yeah, wait till the sun leaves. They grab the wife. They have her punch in the code, and then they have a quick little scene where they shoot all the dudes in the room, and then it turns out that the hitman guy, the guy who shows no emotion, was in the bathroom. So critically
showing no emotion as he hears gunshots go off and all of his friends being murdered.
But he like breaks the towel rack off the wall, so he has a weapon. And then when somebody goes in the room, he like hits Rocco with the towel rack, and the two of them start wrestling. And we see a callback to a moment previously, because I was saying you can't really determine the brothers from one another, but one of the few things is that Sean Patrick Flannery's character Connor insists that people around him like show their own, like they have to man up and kill a dude.
You got to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it himself. So like earlier in a bar fight scene with the Russians, it's a bunch of Irish dudes fighting 3 Russian guys, and at one point his brother is like thrown against a wall full of drinks, and the other Irish guys rush in, and Sean Patrick Flannery is like, no, he could take care of himself. And they and Connor of course pulls down 2 wine bottles and cracks it over the guy's head, and it's all cool. In this scene, Rocco is now wrestling with this hitman, and Sean Patrick Flannery, like Connor goes to help him, and Sean Patrick stops him. He's like, no, he's got to do it himself. And I think he gets distracted killing one of the other mob bosses, and Connor rolls him a cue ball that he can then rolls Rocco the cue ball that he can then beat the man to death with. It's a good, it's a fun action scene. It's fun. This is also the one time when we have previously had Agent Smecker explain, like he'll start to explain what happened, and we will just see the whole scene play out without him, his description. This time though, fantastically, he's there in the room with them.
Was one of the best scenes I can think of in anything, genuinely, from like a direction and cinematography
where he's explaining moment by moment what's going through people's heads, and like when the brothers start firing their guns, he's like right next to them mimicking the firing the guns and like explaining it all, and it's so bonkers and fun, and I'm like, you can tell Willem Dafoe's having a great ass time.
It's so good.
And then the brothers all come out, they've successfully killed everybody, they come out, they're expecting to just leave, and Agent Smecker comes to the conclusion that they run into 6 men all wielding guns. And then we cut to what actually happened, which is Billy Connolly with a vest with 6 guns.
With 6 guns.
So it's actually one guy, 6
and then
guns.
We have following one of the best action set pieces with a killer narrative conceit on top of it.
So we then
followed up with the dumbest, worst gunfight in anything that isn't Star Wars.
Everybody's just fucking shit up. Like Billy Connolly is standing in the middle of the road shooting,
right, and in a suburb, in like a nice suburb,
and somehow none of the brothers can hit him, and he can't hit any of them because plot armor, I guess.
Right.
Divine intervention.
They do get critically. There are some injuries that happen to them. But
each of the brothers get hit, and then Rocco gets his finger shot off, which is how Smecker finds out who the identity is, all that. So,
blah, blah, blah.
But the redeeming quality of this scene. Not the firefight, but Willem Dafoe in the middle of everybody, between the two of them, because he's like metaphysically here, but not fucking losing his shit.
He's losing his mind.
Drops to his knees and he yells to the sky with like sweat drenching down him, and he's like ripped
like
off
he's in a musical.
Yeah,
he's just in a musical.
And he just yells, "There was a firefight!" And he throws his whole ass into it. And he, in real life, apparently, in the real life of the world, like he pulls out his own gun and shoots it into the air. That's how overtaken he is with emotion in this scene.
Yes.
It is so strange. I love it so
bizarre.
Much. I think about there was a firefight like twice a week.
Right. No, same. It's ingrained. Like I have like little phrases from like my past and things I've seen and things people have said to me that just stick in my brain like mimetically. That's one of them. Like I remember that image.
Yeah, it is. And that whole thing, he just makes it. He just like Willem Dafoe makes that little part of it. So
well,
much.
I mean, and then after that, right, you know, we like cut out of flashback mode.
Yeah.
Right. Smoothly, because we've had Willem Dafoe in it. And so we cut out of flashback mode in the sense that like he stands up and he's drenched in sweat. His shirt is untucked.
Yeah.
His like tie is loose. His top button is undone. His jacket has vanished at some point. Right. It's like it's as if he was actually in the fight. Yeah. Right. Just like it. And it's so, when like these other cops around him are just like looking at him with this combination of like, I mean, I guess he's right, because he's been right about everything else so far. All 3 previous crime scenes, he's been exactly right. And also, this is the weirdest man on the planet.
No, and it comes off to one of the best payoffs.
It does.
Because there's a character named Greenlee who's been the guy who says the dumbest shit. He is introduced by explaining away the first scene as, there was a huge fucking guy, right?
There was a huge
fucking guy. And then it's just a dumb thing. And he's wrong at every, like at one point, Smecker asks him how many bodies there are at a crime scene. He's like, 8. And Smecker's like, really? And he's like, oh, fuck 9. I forgot about that one.
I forgot about that one.
He is, of all of dumb characters in the movie, he is canonically the dumbest. And
Rocco is up there with him.
But I think Greenlee is the dumbest. And at the end of this thing, after Smecker has been like 6 guys with guns blazing, blah, blah, blah. And Greenlee goes, what if it was one guy with 6 guns?
Yeah.
Which is what happened.
Right. But
and Smecker's like, if I wanted your opinion, I'd fucking ask for it, and like storms off.
Right. And like, oh God, it's so good.
And I guess, again, if I was going to give credit to Troy Duffy, which I refuse to do, but if I was going to give him credit to, and basis to your theory, is that you put the thing that literally happened, the actual canonical truth of the story, in the mouth of the guy who always has the dumbest ideas.
Man on the planet. Yeah.
I guess that supports the idea of like, this is a fucked up world. Look how stupid all of this is.
Right. Yes.
I can get behind you on that one.
Yes. I mean, I think it's a read based on your knowledge of who Troy Duffy is. Yes. I don't think it's the correct one, but yeah.
And especially, and like, if anything, and then we haven't really talked about Boondocks 2 All Saints Day.
I've never seen it. I
don't recommend you do
until I happened to look it up.
It's not good. It's not as bad a sequel as the sequel to a previous thing covered on this series. The Man from Earth also had a sequel, which is really terrible. Boondock Saints All Saints Day is it's just mediocre bad. It's not like
it's not fun bad.
Well, it's not even like
bad.
Make me angry bad. It's just like, why did this need to get made? It didn't need to get made bad. I don't remember anything that happened in it except for like they ruined Il Duce's character. That's about all that I remember from that movie.
Sure.
It's not
well because he becomes a character instead of like
an archetype,
plot object. Yeah.
So, where were we? Is there anything else we need to cover about the actual plot?
Mostly that Greeley is the dumbest man on the planet, and that like in a film full of deeply stupid things, that the way that Il Duce, the most presented as the most frightening assassin on the planet, shows up to kill these men is by standing in the middle of the street with 6 guns on a vest and does not kill any of them.
Not even Rocco.
Not even Rocco.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, that I had like you, I had not seen this by. No, I'm not so true. I had watched it probably about 2 years ago, but I wasn't watching it with a critical eye the way I was this time, because when I was younger, it did not strike me how fucking stupid every single person in this entire movie
every single person is a dumbass.
Everybody in this movie is dumbass, and that is where almost all of the comedy actually comes from. Like and I will give it this credit, it is an insanely funny movie. The script is actually really, really funny, and the delivery is all really good.
The scene where Rocco is brought in with like the sub sandwich for the mob boss, and the mob boss is like, I've had a shitty day, tell me a joke. And so Rocco tells a classic, like, this is a racist joke, and stops in the middle to be like, this isn't funny, I'm not on my game today.
And the mob boss, and like, it's very obvious that like Rocco's telling a racist joke, but he's not like being the most racist he could about it. And the mob boss stops and insists that he use the N-word, hard R.
Right. Yeah.
And you can tell that like Rocco is so deeply uncomfortable actually saying it.
ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Then he like is like, and like one point he's like, black guy, and the other guy's like corrects him again to say, no, say the N-word, and he's like, yeah, that's what I said.
Doesn't, yeah.
And he says it eventually.
Yeah, that's
like,
what I said.
Yeah, but like he's so deeply uncomfortable about it, and like the joke itself is not particularly funny. But the way that they spend so long drawing out how uncomfortable the entire situation is, and then there's even a long pause after he tells the joke, and he's like, he starts off with like trying to do delivery, and at the end he just does like a straight laced, I'm just gonna tell it, and I'm just gonna do flat monotone, just this, and then there's a long pause, and then the Bob Boss starts laughing hilariously, and the release of tension that happened, that like because of like it takes a joke that is not funny, but like the building of that tension and then release is kind of masterful in making a joke out of the fact that this joke is a joke,
right. And it's also like, does this guy really think this is funny? And then it's basically revealed later that like, no, probably not. He probably does not actually think this funny, but he's doing this like as a tactic, basically
to mess with Rocco,
with Rocco, to get Rocco to agree to do this frankly insane thing,
which is go try to kill 9 mobsters with a 6-shooter.
Can we talk about that scene?
Sure.
I mean, we have to talk about, I think we need to talk about all the action scenes in order, frankly.
Yeah.
Starting with the Russians.
Okay, so the very first, we haven't even talked about the bartender
we haven't talked about the bartender.
Okay, so oh God, what's the character? Okay, so the guy from Fraggle Rock plays the bartender.
Is it Bill Craig? McGurkin is what's listed on the thing.
Yeah. He is or
McElpenny.
Yeah, McElpenny.
Robert Pemberton.
McElpenny. Who is the like he plays like the one human dude in Fraggle Rock.
That's wild.
Yeah.
The casting here is wild.
Yeah, it's such a strange thing. But so he shows up. He's a bartender who has Tourette's. So they call him fuck ass because he says fuck ass a lot.
Which is very funny. The word Tourette's is never used.
No, but like he very obviously
yes.
Or he plays a character that has Troy Duffy's understanding of what Tourette's is also.
Right, which is a man who yells cuss words loudly for no reason.
Yes.
And
has a bit of a stammer. It's not the worst version of Tourette's I've seen on screen, but it's not great.
The man is Porky Pig who yells fuck ass.
Although I will claim this, he seems to be well liked by everybody around him, and is like they love his bar, and they genuinely seem to like trust him and view him as an ally. And this is never commented on. So like
he's not. No one treats him like he's less than.
No, they just think it's kind of funny. In fact, although they draw more attention to the fact that he fucks up like aphorisms, like. Which is
also deeply funny.
Yeah, but it's like not related to Tourette's at all. And as far as I can tell, isn't maybe meant to be. Like at one point, he's like, make like a tree and get the fuck out of here.
Right. It's so good.
Which is so like again, it's deeply funny. It is so funny.
Well, and there's a bit. I mean, okay, I know we're about to talk to the actions before we get to it. That same guy shows up when they're in the hospital the next morning at the first action scene, and it's the two brothers, a little kid, and they're like playing like a game with a little kid, which is like a really sweet humanizing moment that's clearly intended to be like, these guys are good. Yes. You're about to see them do so many murders, but they're good. Right. And then also in the room are 3 nuns.
Yes.
Question mark. Who exist there exclusively to be shown once to establish they're there, and then gasp in shock when the bartender says fuck ass very loudly. And that's it.
So talking about the action sequences, we have the 3 mobsters show up in a fucking a rundown Irish bar full of big burly Irish dudes. And also Rocco, who is a squirrely little Italian. And they come in and they're like, we are taking over this bar. You get out. Fuck you, blah, blah, blah. Which is like, they don't even have a gun on them at this time, but they're completely outnumbered. And in a rough bar. This seems like a dumbass move. And very predictably, the drunk Irishmen do not appreciate getting kicked out of their bar. Right. And the brothers start a fight with these 3 Russian dudes, and they beat the shit out of them.
And also everyone else in the bar, critically.
Was that?
Yeah. The brothers and the rest of the
But like, they're the ones who start it. Right? And then everybody else goes along with it. Yes. And they start it in the most, this is a movie about these 2 guys being good at fighting and also brothers and manageable, by them both simultaneously taking a shot,
placing it on the bar, and then both drawing back and socking the same guy immediately.
Yes.
Like,
and they, so they beat the shit out of these Russians, including like tying one of them to the bar and burning his ass with alcohol.
Yes.
Which is, again, this is a goofy movie. I'll buy it. And they apparently were then somehow the Russians the next night, they show back up at these guys' house. Again, I think this is a cool in a very particular way kind of thing about the brothers, which is that they live a very hard life, is the kind of the idea that we're talking about. They live in like a rundown, they apparently live in like the bathrooms of a bigger building where they just are in the showers all of the time.
Well, it's weird. Yeah. The room appears to be it's like if someone started to build an apartment and then all they built was the toilet.
Well, it's like, like they have the big open showers, like 4 showers in a row.
I guess.
And there's some toilets
it's
right
like
in a row.
Dormitory shower.
So it's like, this is like the changing room of a gym that they happen to be living in. But apparently it's on the 5th floor of this building. I don't understand.
Weird. I don't understand.
And these guys sleep like in their they just take their shirts off and they put their crucifixes on a nail in the wall, and then they sleep on like grubby ass mattresses on the floor. They live
on the floor.
But like I will admit, because this worked on me as a kid, as a young, stupid ass, testosterone poisoned young man. The idea that like these guys live a hard ass life, like they have no comforts. Look how manly they are. Worked on me.
Well, especially because this happens about 10 minutes after we see them at their jobs at the meatpacking plant, in which, like, the first thing we see them do in the meatpacking plant is josh around by hitting each other with raw meat.
So the Russians show up. They handcuff Sean Patrick Flannery to a toilet, and then they're going to take Norman Reedus down to the alleyway to shoot him in the alleyway. And Sean Patrick Flannery rips the toilet out of the floor. Or more specifically, I think actually it's if you're kind of watching it, what he does is he breaks the porcelain by like slamming his body against it enough times. And then he climbs, because he's on the 5th floor, he climbs up to the roof from where he is, and then he drops the toilet on one guy and jumps onto the other one from the roof. And then thus disabling the 2 Russians. His brother then beats the other one to death with the top of the toilet, which is one of the few parts that survive. And then they roll the 2 dudes, take their stupid Desert Eagle pistols and their big rolls of money and their gold jewelry, and they fucking bugger off. Yep. This is the original. And it's all of this, by the way, is essentially a music video, because we barely hear any. Like we hear them like,
God, it is like even like the way the camera depicts him jumping off the roof is the most like, this is an Ocean Avenue music video, a Yellow Card music video. Like
it's honestly really well done for like,
it is
like for a first time. Here's the thing. Troy Duffy wasn't a filmmaker. He was a dude. He wrote this script one day, thought it was good, got some people to agree that it was good, and went and started selling it around. And, he was originally dropped by Miramax. So he's actually a person that even fucking Harvey Weinstein wasn't going to work with. I don't know how much of that.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know how much that actually says about his character, but like that's true.
That could either be a great compliment or really bad.
I don't know. He got picked up by another production company, which funded the film for him. There was a documentary about him during this time because it was essentially an overnight success story. So he is a first-time script writer, first-time director making this movie. And you know what? For that, this is honestly incredibly competent.
It does seem well directed. Yeah. I'm not a huge movie buff or whatever, but like my issues with the film are it's all in with.
Again, I think it's because the message is so rancid. The foundations of the plot are so gross that like everything competent on top of it doesn't help.
Right. Yeah. It just makes it like, wait, no, stop. Yeah. Actually, don't do that.
So we have, it's a fun scene. It's kind of funny at times. We have the next one, which is when they find out where the mob boss is going to be, like the Russian mob boss is going to be meeting all of his capos in a hotel. And they go to the IRA. It doesn't say it's the IRA, but it's the fucking IRA.
Oh my God, it's the IRA. Yeah. You're right. I was like, who is this guy? I was like, oh, it's just like it's
a dude wearing a flat cap, and a vest in a room with a giant Irish flag across one fucking side of it. And I think it's a motto written in like Latin that says like, or it's either Gaelic or Latin. And it's like,
it's gotta be Gaelic, right?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it says something about like justice and stuff like that. And he's like, they give him all the crap from the Russians, and he's like, fucking take your pick. And he shoots them into an armory where it's just like fucking full of guns.
This is like the Men in Black armory,
Yeah.
except not science fiction.
No.
Like,
yeah. And it's like, fucking, sniper rifles and MP5s and like, they I guess competently, they only take a couple of silenced 911 or 9mm. And although
and also crucially,
some rope and a knife
and a rope.
Yeah, get your fucking rope. And they have a whole discussion in like Clerks style about like, you know what we fucking need? Some fucking rope. They've always got rope in the TV.
In the movie.
Yeah, they always end up using it. And like,
yeah, what's it like? They like reference specific actors.
Charlie Bronson's always got fucking rope, and they're giving each other shit the whole time in a very dumbassy way.
Yes.
They climb into the vents of this hotel, get lost, start fighting in the vent. Like the most two Irish brothers thing I could think of is like getting into a physical altercation with each other on the way to go do a murder.
You're getting stuck in the vent. Yeah. I'm wearing your stupid rope. It must weigh 30 pounds.
Yeah. It's just, and they're being funny. And then they accidentally fall through the ceiling and are suspended by the rope. And they pull their guns out and they shoot everybody.
The two of them suspended back to back, upside down, rope wrapped around them. They're slowly spinning, and they're like getting kill shots on all of these
and like
monsters.
Even later on, Smecker calls out that like they killed them with like incredibly well aimed precision and everything, and like
it's so funny.
And like. But they were like hanging upside down, accidentally fell into this room kind of situation. Again, I think the idea that like Smecker divine intervention is the only reason why they work is a really good call, man.
Genuinely, yeah. And because Smecker brings up later too in the next like crime scene how like the two of them are capable, good like shooters.
Yes.
Right. And it's like, but we've never seen any evidence from them that they've like practiced.
Yes. Presumably, like that's one of the things their mom taught them, because
I guess
it's pointed out that they speak like a bunch of different languages, and they say that their mom taught them, and
which does come into practice when they're figuring out this whole thing about where the Russian mob is, but otherwise does not come up again.
No, it's just to show that they're competent Ubermenches, I guess. I don't.
Right. It's just like it's another like yes, these are the smartest, strongest, best guys,
nonetheless,
and thus their decisions are right.
They're working in a meat packing plant for some reason, which is also pointed out like, what the fuck are you guys doing here?
Well, it's a beautiful mind thing.
Yeah.
Right? They're just janitors or whatever.
Or
right? Like
the rational part of my brain suggests that they are in America illegally and are working an undocumented job.
That's also not infeasible.
But that's not that. It doesn't seem like it would be that hard for two dudes from Ireland who speak multiple languages to get a green card in America. Like traditionally, if you were going to do the like undocumented immigrant thing, maybe they're on the run from something, like maybe they're wanted by Interpol. That would be a good explanation, but that's not mentioned before. They seem to just be two dumbasses. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like, are they criminals already? And it's like, I mean, they do hang out with this dude in the Italian mob.
I don't know.
I guess. I don't know. It's super not clear.
So for being ostensibly the protagonists of the movie, we know basically nothing about the McManus brothers.
It's wild.
Yeah, they're funny and we like them. They're personable. Sean Patrick Flanery and Norman Reedus are doing a fantastic job of making us like them, and we know that they're super badasses. But other than that, we have like literally no idea about them.
Yeah,
they're like, it's very strange. So, okay, we've talked about the first two action sequences.
Yep. Well, and then they execute the main Russian mob guy with the prayer.
They kill Ron Jeremy in the porn place.
Oh my God, that's Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
Jesus, I didn't even put that together.
It's Ron fucking Jeremy.
Christ. With like the intentionally obnoxious pompadour he keeps messing with.
He looks like Elvis. They just dress him and style him like Elvis.
It's honestly a really incredible character choice for this character. Like, and it's a good casting for the character.
He works.
God.
Like I'm not sure that Ron Jeremy would ever work in a movie except in this exact role.
Doing this. Yeah, no, you're totally right. Jesus Christ.
And okay, if we're gonna talk about the porn, the peep show scene, where this is the first time they've brought Rocco in. I'm not even gonna talk about Rocco's thing at the bar because fuck that. That's annoying. That like we don't have that much time.
at the
cafe where he kills the
he kills some guy.
It doesn't matter. It's kind of a cool scene. It doesn't matter.
Basically not.
And so they they go to this. He's like, okay, we got to kill the guy who basically, as far as I can tell, Rocco just chooses to kill Ron Jeremy because that guy's kind of a prick to him, and he's just
right,
like,
basically,
yeah, he's like, well,
this guy sucks, and I don't like him.
So,
and he's with the mob, which is enough for the brothers.
And they, so okay, they do it. They kill him. We get to see Rocco molest a woman while she's knocked out or fainted or something, and it's played like a joke. And it is it's. But like, well,
it is played like a joke, but also like it is also made clear it's played like a joke, and also the brother's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Yeah. And Rocco's immediately like, "Let me make up for this shit." I was
gonna tip her, right? Right. So he knows that he's doing wrong.
Yes.
It's a very I don't like.
It is the most like deeply like the energy of a high school boy. Yeah.
Very, very high school boy energy. Yes. Mm-hmm. Which is probably why it appealed to me when I was a high school boy,
Fair.
But like, again, it's like, okay, so they kill Ron Jeremy. While they're there, two other guys show up who we never even see. Like two other mob dudes, like low-level street-walking
We're just told, we just like have them look through the things to like recognize there's people there and then go, oh yeah, these dudes also suck. Yeah,
we're also going to kill them. And then Rocco insists on doing it cowboy style with one gun in each hand. And it's a whole thing. It's funny.
Which again is deeply funny, right? Because we also then get the narration from Smecker, who's like, well, this guy was killed exclusively with bullets from gun A, and this guy is killed exclusively with bullets from gun B. But then also we have two bullets on either wall from the opposite gun. And what happened?
It's because he was shooting them with one gun each, and then he like did the crossover arm thing because it made him look cool.
Take two more shots, which both fully miss.
Yeah, they just embedded in the wall. The guys were already
dead.
They're
already dead. But like it's.
And like who those dudes were matters so little to the narrative that like
they don't get names. We don't even see them.
It's like they're just some bad guys. It's just a moment, and it's very strange. Like at least we knew that Ron Jeremy was a prick, but like that's it.
And like we know that the 9 Russian mobster guys are like
they're
Russian mob guys.
Yeah, they're established who they are, but like I don't like it's mentioned offhand that those guys are like members of some sort of criminal organization, streetwalker guys, but like. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not established.
Like presumably also Italian, presumably off of the mafia, question mark. But like, who knows?
Who knows? It's not important.
Or one of them is pimps and dealers get brought up specifically.
It's very strange. Who the morality of who rises to the level of somebody that they need to kill is very strange about like who qualifies or not.
Well, yeah, like and it like because they give the whole speech at the end of the movie.
We'll get there because So we already talked about the next one where they go after the hitman and then have the fight with that's really the fight with Il Duce is kind of the last action sequence of the movie, right? Because after that they hook up with Willem Dafoe. And then they have the kind of like Willem Dafoe gets to kill a guy at the mansion, but mostly we just see
knocked out by
the mob guy first shoot off another one of Rocco's fingers and then kill Rocco,
and then kill him, which they get deeply, and then we see them being deeply, deeply sad about this and angry, right?
Yeah. I guess we do see like briefly like one of them like breaks the other one's hand, I think, so they can get out of their cuffs, and then they stab one of the mafia dudes with a chair, part of the chair or something. It's unclear. But they're out by the time that that Il Duce finds them, and importantly, they are saying the family prayer as they are mourning their friend Rocco.
And I'm such a sucker for like. Here's like the ritual prayer. I mean,
like anybody any young man who watched this when they were 18 probably knows it. To thee, my Lord, to thee, we shall flow a river forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be. Many patri et filii et spiritus sancti.
I was gonna look it up, but you just got it. Cool.
At least the second part of it. And Billy Connolly as El Duce finishes the line for them, and it becomes obvious that despite the fact that he's Scottish and they're Irish, it's fine. Those islands are not far from each other.
They're basically the same, right?
And he's like, he looks at him, he's like, oh, my boys, I found my boys.
Yeah, basically.
And then they go and they kill the Papa Joe Jacobetta,
the aforementioned Italian mob boss,
with the help of all of the FBI and all of the police. They're now all on their side together. They murder him in front of a bunch of innocent people who never did anything wrong and are now definitely going to be traumatized for the rest of their lives.
Right. After doing a whole fucking speech. Also, critically, Italian mob boss's mom in the room.
Yeah.
Shown on camera. Yeah, but we get the whole speech from them that's like clearly rehearsed because they like jump back and forth.
They have it all planned out.
Giving it.
You cover Jacobetta while we say our part, and then we're
standing on specific. They're standing on specific railings in the courtroom.
This is the moment where the movie kind of goes unhinged to me.
It goes unhinged in a very like Shakespearean way.
But like
genuine,
and also a very 90s way. Because if there was ever a time when the idea of we need to be harder on criminals, despite the fact that this is the 90s and we are being as hard on criminals as we possibly can, we nonetheless need to we just need to murder them right now. That is the sentiment that is coming out.
We need to murder them, and it's also all the people who they show in the end credits who are asked to like comment on the Saints.
Yes.
Right. Which is, to be clear, the Saints is an in-universe name for these men. And they're asked to comment on them. And so many people are like, I feel scared to walk out on the street. And I'm like, boy, this movie sure is of its time about that shit, huh?
The thing, the cloud that hangs over, not the only cloud, but one of the many clouds that hangs over this movie is the fact that you cannot talk about crime and justice and who should be punished in this country and have a fucking cast as white as this. There is not I don't think there is a single person of color in the entire movie.
One of the gay men is black, Scott, who gets no lines except to gasp when Smecker uses a slur.
Until they get to the people on the street. The people on the street also do feature some people of color. Some of whom are against this, and a lot of whom seem to be very much for it in a way.
Right.
And
it's wild, dude.
It's such a white man's movie in that way.
It really is.
The idea that it's such a simple idea of what is wrong with the world and how it could be fixed if only we just let the most righteous men, I guess, kill whomever they like indiscriminately. It's a really competently made movie. Like we haven't even it's been an hour and 20 minutes and we haven't even mentioned how bomb ass the soundtrack is.
The soundtrack is so weird, dude.
Yeah, okay,
it's
some
so
of it.
Weird.
The Blood of Cuchulainn is the theme of the movie. It plays over the opening credits, and it is a legitimate bop.
And it works really well. It's very fucking. This movie is set in Boston.
Yeah,
it
might as well have been performed by Dropkick Murphys. I mean,
right. I was gonna say, if this movie had been made 10 years later or whatever, it would have been done by Dropkick Murphys or
or Flogging Molly or something like that. It's a super competent movie, but the very core of it, just the heart, the central idea of this movie is so fucked that when I start thinking about how would I fix this movie? How could I do a Boondock Saints and not be an absolute monster in doing it? Because
you'd have to make everybody in the movie a bad guy.
Well, or I think you just have to fundamentally change the movie.
Well, I don't think you can tell the story without it being specifically a critique of the brothers.
No,
thing,
because
right?
I think I could. We've been talking about it, and then I mentioned Flogging Molly, and now I'm thinking about more, which is that you can't make them unequivocal heroes. You can't make them 100% righteous. But
they're the Punisher,
right? But you know what? If this was a movie about class, I would be interested in ways I'm not.
Okay.
Right. So
lay this out for me.
So I am thinking about the theory of, instead of, we need to kill people who do the bad in this world, the people who actually go unpunished. Who are the people who go unpunished? The privileged people who
the billionaires.
Yeah, the billionaires, the rich and the powerful, the ones who escape justice because they have power. And if you're gonna make if anybody the system doesn't work on these guys, so we're gonna fucking kill them. So it's, instead of targeting mob bosses and street level thugs and such. It's
Right.
no, we're gonna fucking kill Jeff Bezos and we're gonna kill
Right.
Elon Musk or like fictional their equivalents
yeah,
there too.
Right? Put your equivalent
And-
there and Peter Thiel and
Yeah,
whatever.
and you're like,
yeah.
you look at the guys, and like, and it's not that hard to come up with just in-universe justifications for your fictional billionaires. Oh yeah, this guy lobbied for a repeal of a law that was like protecting people from getting lung cancer and stuff. Like,
right, this guy has been like bankrolling all the like the oil
Yeah.
company lawyers
Exactly.
or whatever, right?
yeah,
Like,
and like it's not that hard to like give a justification that is like, because the thing is, these guys are pissed about something which doesn't really exist, which is like, I mean, there is organized crime, there are, you know, mob members and gangsters and stuff like that, but like basically those people are actually being punished by our system. Like they're one of the few people that actually like law enforcement,
organized crime.
Yeah. Like
did in fact.
Yeah, but like also like 99% of all crime is unorganized. So like mostly these guys, if they really were doing what they say they're going to do, they're mostly going to be killing like less fortunate people who are like in a shitty situation and like rob a convenience store, you know?
Well, yes. Also, critically and crucially, like really indicating like the mindset here is like their whole spiel is like, you know, we're here to like murder all the evil people, and there are lesser degrees of sin.
Yeah.
Right. But if you move into the territory of rape, murder, or theft,
which means fundamentally that they are like just going to be supporting the power structures that already exist, right? Like they represent the most extreme paramilitary version of justice in our system.
Right. It's not rape, murder, and like racism.
Yeah. or even like it's like, I don't know, like rape, murder, and like child trafficking. Like you could do like you could pick something that like most people would agree, like, oh yeah, all three of those are really bad. But like theft.
Right.
I mean, like,
come on.
That's real. Like one of these things is not like the other two.
Right. It's fucking actually when rioters break windows, it's just as bad as when the police kill a black person.
Yes. Yeah. So like, so if you completely changed like the central premise of the movie, which is like, no, we are going after like the people who have enough power that they don't get punished by our system because the system fails, then like, I don't know. I think I could be along for that ride and not feel absolutely terrible about myself. You'd have to, I mean, you can't do it like, like, for example, you would still have, I mean, I don't have to, but I would probably still choose to put in a scene where like they break into a billionaire's house and kill him in front of his like daughter or something, and she's obviously very upset about it, and like you get a humanizing moment of like, hey man, we're doing something fucking like really fucked up, like this is a fucked up thing we're doing, and you can have a moment, you can have a crisis of faith about that, or you could not, I don't know, but like you could frame that as like, this isn't like a really good thing we're doing, but it is talking about a real issue, as opposed to Boondock Saints, which is very much not talking about an
issue that doesn't exist. Yeah.
So like that's at that point, like that's the only thing I can think of that would like redeem this movie.
Yeah, like I mean, I can see something like that, but I feel like that's been done before. Like it's not literally this, but like you started talking about like, you know, the people who aren't punished, and I'm like, that's just Killmonger from Black Panther. Like that's his whole stated objective. Does he do that in practice? No, but that's his like stated motivation.
But I mean, like,
right?
A movie, man, you could have such a good fucking punk soundtrack on a movie like that, though.
Totally.
Of like, because I can think of songs off my track list. Okay, I'm gonna as an aside, whenever I am working on a story project myself, I usually model myself after I start with like a different premise. I think I've already said online that It Takes a Wolf, the audio drama I'm working on, is basically Lucky Number 11. Like I've taken the movie Lucky Number 11 and I am doing a Lucky Number 11. It doesn't work out that way. It's not like it's not a perfect model.
It's not a beat for
but like
beat,
it's the place that I start. And I have started several projects in the past thinking about Boondock Saints and as like a version of, well, how would I do a Boondock Saints? And I've never been able to make that idea work. But you know what? A fucking them as like anarchist kill the billionaire guys is not an approach I've taken before. So I'm going to put that one on my
such thing as ethical billionaires. You know what I mean? Again, the critical thing about the characters of the brothers is the code.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Like that comes up. It's like constant.
Yeah.
It's constant.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Where it's and it's like and that's like expressed in it being like an expression of faith for them, including the family prayer, right? Like we didn't talk about the scene where they wake up to the water in the in the jail cell.
This is
like
okay. Again, I had not watched this movie with as critical an eye in the past as I did this time, and the religious overtones had not felt so strong in the past as they did this time that I watched it.
It's the whole movie.
It's the whole goddamn movie is them on a quest from God in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah. Fucking, we're on a quest from God, Blues Brothers style.
yeah, honestly. After they have killed the first set of Russians, before they kill the next set of Russians, they spend the night in the jail, mostly, but like not like they're under arrest. They're in the jail because they don't want to be hassled by the press.
Yeah. And the cops are like, nice job, boys.
Yeah. And like, they're like, can we stay here tonight? And the guy's like, oh yeah, sure. And then like Smecker even jokes about like, I don't mind if your friends stay over.
That line's so fucking funny. God.
I wonder how much of that I wonder if how much of that might be ad-libbed by Willem Dafoe.
Right. How much was written in the script or not?
I'd be fascinated to know, because I know his performance brings out that character in a way that maybe it didn't exist on the page. But so they're sleeping on the top bunks of their bunk beds. They're each on a top bunk of a bunk bed right near the ceiling for some reason. And they're sleeping in the jail cell, and they both have the same religious dream where they hear Billy Connolly's voice, the voice of their father, talking about I forget what he says in that thing, but they also hear the priest talking about Kitty Genovese again. And like the thing that people must fear is not evil men, but the indifference of good men and all that stuff, and that good men will do nothing. And then they see like water starts leaking from the jail cell ceiling onto them or between them, and they both like lift up out of the bed and look at each other and like share a moment. And then it cuts to the morning when they have both actually woken up, and that was apparently just a dream, but they're like looking at each other, and that's when they formulate the like, no, we're gonna fucking do this now plan. Yeah, it's a choice.
It is. It's because I didn't interpret it, and I think this might have just been me misinterpreting it, because I don't think it's clear enough in the film that this is the moment that they decide, oh, we're gonna like go become like vigilante like death dealers. Right. To evil men as determined by us. Right. Because to me, I sort of was coming into this movie, and maybe just like knowing these guys end up being who they are. Right. I just sort of was like, oh, they already know they're going to do this from the beginning, from the jump.
Right.
And they probably don't. I think you're right that like that's the moment where they realize that, but it's not super clear.
No, I mean, I think this movie is definitely getting away a lot on the fact that it's got a funny script, and it's competently directed with action sequences and things move together, and mostly running on vibes. Like it's mostly just like
it's running on
some rule of cool and some vibes, and like I was talking about how its central premise is so rancid, but like it came out at a time when that was the prevailing idea. Like this was
we aren't hard enough on
that we're not
crime.
hard, and so like it really speaks to a emotional thing that it definitely existed at the time,
like to a cultural feeling,
and I'm sure absolutely still exists in some people. It's gone now in a lot of us, but so I'm looking back on this movie like, Jesus Christ, how did I ever like? I don't like the term problematic fave all that much, because I think that it encourages people to think, well, that's just a thing I like, but it's also got some shitty stuff about it, but not further investigate that idea. And I think that like it's important when you like something that has shitty things about it to like properly interrogate, well, do I like it because of the shitty things, or do I like it in spite of the shitty things? Could I remove those things and still like that important that thought process can be important to figuring out who you are and what your morals really are, and if you're as good a person as you think you are, you know. So but like in that sense, despite the fact that I don't like it's a problematic fave, it is definitely a problematic fave of mine. It's like a fantastic movie that I love, but it's also fucking rancid to the core. It's
awful. I mentioned his ridiculous coffee order already, which is not important to the film, but it is like the first thing we get from him, from Smecker. And it's like immedately,
who puts a twist of lemon in their fucking cafe latte? Like,
it doesn't make any sense. You're gonna curdle it.
That's so strange. I mean, like unlimited coffee anyway. Like maybe there are people who like bitter and sour, but that's not me.
I mean, coffee and citrus goes.
Okay.
Like that is
That's not
coffee and lime.
Okay.
They grow together.
Oh, okay.
Right?
That's
You know
mind
what
you.
I mean?
I will caveat by saying I do not have a sense of smell, so
Sure.
like my
Yeah.
tastes
That
do not
messes with things.
necessarily align with everyone
Yeah.
else's. But
I will say it's one of those things where it's like it's not a thing I go for,
Sure.
but like coffee and lime in like a cocktail is like a thing that does exist. The coffee margarita is a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Coffee and lemon is a little less that, but like a lemon is actually just the cultivar of a lime.
Yeah.
So like, but yes, adding the milk in there is a lot. And I don't think anybody's out here like, I love my black coffee with lemon.
Yeah.
Like that's not usually a thing that I'm aware of. Maybe I don't know. Maybe somewhere else.
Well, then like
but,
specifically also calling for sweet and low, which is a very specific. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's just opening up and they're just being like, this guy's weird.
Yeah. Well,
like,
this guy's effeminate. He's definitely like, it's just Troy Duffy's idea of what a gay man would order for coffee.
I guess.
I mean, like again, because I don't think he understands. I don't think he understands.
Right. True. Because he didn't ask for a black coffee.
Yeah.
He asked for a cafe latte with a twist of lemon.
Yeah.
That's true. I didn't think about that as like, oh, we're going to use the fancy words.
Yes.
Which means he's gay.
Despite the fact that I don't know if Troy Duffy's ever had a cafe latte in his life. I don't know. Like,
right. Yeah.
To tell you the kind of person that he is, another illuminating fact, part of the deal with Miramax originally, when they were trying to buy the rights to the movie from him, they bought the bar he worked at and gave it to him as part of that deal.
All right.
And a bar in Boston. And they're like, okay, so you were a guy working at a bar, and a thing that you wanted was to just own this bar.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, you know what? Fair play.
I mean, like,
if I could get that out of a movie company, I'd do a lot of things.
It's just funny that it's like he wanted the bar he works at. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Like,
not I want my own bar.
Yeah. Not or just like I'm sorry, but like equivalent amount of money, just give me that. I'll put that shit in T-bills. It'll be fine. Like,
yeah.
The fact that he wanted that it was a selling point that is like gonna if I was in
we'll buy you the bar.
Yeah, if I was in deals with a company to sell my IP to them and they were like, I will buy your boss's company and give it to you, I would be like, I will take less money if you'll not do that, please. Like, no, thank you. I do not ever want to think about that place ever again. Okay.
This movie is nonsense from the core.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had an idea also, which I don't know if this makes it better or worse, because I think we're right. Mm-hmm. You I don't know if it was you or I who pointed out that like, well, yeah, it was because I think the whole reason why Smecker is gay is so that he can be in drag in the last scene.
I guess
that's probably true. Or
just to like make him weirder.
I mean, like, it's entirely possible that was a straight normal dude who then they got to the last scene and Troy Duffy's like Il Duce
How do we
will
make
kill
sure
him.
He doesn't get killed by Il Duce?
So I'll have him dressed as a woman. Okay, well then that means he's gay because a straight man would never get dressed as a woman, which means now everything about this character is now informed by being gay. So I'm just going to write this gay character. I guess it kind of. I mean, like, I guess there are. I'm not going to say there are worse reasons to make a person gay, but like.
Well, also critically, he never, if that's the case, he also didn't have the thought, what if this character is a woman?
Yeah. Well, because there's no women in this movie. There's not Fortune Feimster, and there's
Dot Marie Jones.
And there's the stripper.
The three nuns who have no lines. Who
gets molested while she's asleep.
Sex worker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's Rocco's girlfriend and her girlfriend's best friend.
Jesus, that bit is awful, genuinely awful. Yeah, everything about that is awful.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen this movie, check does the dog die before you watch this movie. It is important. We are fortunate enough people that this does not bother us, but there are things in this movie that will bother you. It's very casually associated. So the only is the girlfriend and her and the girlfriend's friend, are they the only women with lines in this movie?
Unless you count the duct taped wife of the poker game guy who does
that doesn't count. And there's some women in the credits talking to the real people in the world. Things.
Yes, who are like real person standing. Oh, the news broadcaster is a woman.
Oh, you're right.
Who comes up several times.
Okay.
But like
but that's it.
She's not a character.
Yeah, she's the Greek chorus.
Yeah, because all the cops are men.
Yeah.
The brothers are men. Rocco's a man. All the victims are men.
Yes.
Like,
so
yeah.
Okay, so we brought up Fight Club very early, and it's interesting because Fight Club is, again, it's a movie that I wouldn't show to men under 30 probably if given a choice, because like I think you need, or like unless they've shown like excellent ability to close read themes and like to discuss it, but like it's a bad movie. But like if you dig into Fight Club, there's some really interesting things it's saying, and Fight Club is very interested in gender. Like it is like that is the central thesis of Fight Club, is about masculinity, and it knows it and it talks about it openly. It is clearly a theme.
Right.
Boondock Saints is like that, but completely uncritical. Like it is
completely unaware of itself.
It's doing all of this, not doing all the same stuff, but it is doing unironically all of the things that Fight Club is like kind of talking about being fucking weird. And Boondock Saints just so fucking leans into it so goddamn hard that like it is a manly movie. It is a masculine movie all the way through, to the point where, like I said, there are like very, very, very few women in it, and hardly any lines spoken by women except for the Greek chorus. And it is a movie very much concerned with like being men and masculinity, but like nonetheless is not aware of that as an idea at all. It treats it so uncritically, and it is to the point where it doesn't even come up. Like how manly and masculine these main characters are is evident and important to the appeal, but is not ever even mentioned like as a thing that it's thinking about.
It's just default.
Interestingly, I was thinking about it, that the McManus brothers, I guess because they are paladins, as you were described, they are incredibly chaste. They express literally zero interest in sex or women, apparently at any point through the entire movie. They do not. They. If you told me that those characters were intentionally written as asexual, aromantic, I would believe you, because
either that or like they had taken a vow of chastity.
Well, no, because here's the thing: like, if they were mentioned to have taken a vow of chastity, then that implies to me that it ever occurred to them at all to do anything other than that.
True.
Like, as far as I can tell,
these men. This is is it gay to have sex with your wife thing?
Maybe.
Right. Like not in a like serious, not like literally, but the amount of, we are so interested in being masculine that even being near a woman,
it's possible.
Like
that's a completely valid read. To me, I think it must go back to the religious thing, where like they're pure, right? And like they're you know, they don't, they're above this world and therefore are allowed to live outside of its rules. And like,
like genuine, like they're like genuinely like, you know, D&D paladins, fucking Arthurian knights, type thing.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Like,
Arthurian knight would be an interesting direction to script doctor this too, as like, I literally like lean heavy into it. And like, we are on a quest and like, but like, and it's such a, it's not going to say it's a strange, it's a very particular kind of masculinity that is oozing out of this movie, of like, cause like I will give huge credit to Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus. Those dudes look fucking good. Like they are both in very good shape. They're handsome men. They look great covered in tattoos. Like, I am a straight man, and like nonetheless, like, man, I get it. Like
they look good in a way that still reads as like realistic for the economic station that
they're scrawny.
Like they are not like, this is not like Thor.
Yeah, well, this is
you know what I mean.
This is not Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's before that.
Yeah,
right. It's before that becoming a thing.
And it is the Fight Club era, because like I think Fight Club is a year before or after this, or
it's
right
in that,
in there.
It's in this space, right?
So like this is the era when like lean and cut and wiry guys were like this was the Hollywood standard. But like these guys look like they're absolutely pulling that shit off. I'm sure it was not easy. Yeah. So good to them. Probably we should still not be making, like, six packs are not necessarily a healthy thing for people to expect to have.
But there's also no indication that these people are healthy men in the film.
That's a reasonable thing. Yeah.
I don't think we ever see them eat anything.
Smoke all the time.
They exclusively smoke cigarettes and drink beer.
Drink and whiskey and
and like and take shots. Like,
that's true. Yeah, I don't think you're right. I don't think they eat. I don't think they even put an egg in their beer the way that the stevedores in fucking The Wire do. It's a very particular kind of of masculinity, and a very like again it's hugely concerned with like we need to like do evil unto bad men in a way that like it's a very particular thing. I understand sort of what this movie taps into within the psyche of uh of the Western man, but
Yeah.
like understanding that is an important part of like dissecting it and trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah, no, yeah, extremely.
Yeah,
And it, and it, like you said, like this movie is just truly the theme of it is just rancid at the core, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some fun stuff in it, man.
Like
yeah.
I don't think it is impossible to walk through this world with like moral taste, if that's a good way to put it.
Right.
Like you not
there's no ethical consumption under capitalism.
Well, not even capitalism, just like there are like art depicts shitty stuff all the time.
Yes.
And depiction's not endorsement, but also just like every creator is human and has flaws. Every piece of art, even if it depicts everything that it does in a way that you agree with, it chooses not to depict many other things. And so therefore in its, by choosing not to feature something else is therefore letting like there's flaws everywhere. There's no way to like to find a pure piece of media that like you can just like without abashedness love, there's always going to be objections. And to that end, you can like look at things like Boondock Saints, which again, like at its core, the very base idea of this movie is both wrong and awful. But like nonetheless, it's a fun movie. Like it's really like enjoyable. It's really the editing is tight. The music is weird but good. The performances are all great. It's funny. It like I can enjoy all of those things without endorsing the central idea. And that being and I think an important part of taking media that is, that has immoral ideas in it is that you have to spend some time thinking about why it is bad and why you like it anyway. And because the thing is, if you liked it because it was bad, like if you liked the immoral things about it, if I walked out of Boondock Saints being like, yeah, fucking kill every asshole who's like every sinner in the world, then like,
sign me up too.
And if that like, that can't be the reason I like it, but I can still like the other things about them because they don't necessarily derive from that part. Like the fact that the morals of this movie are like just fucking awful doesn't mean that the script isn't funny. The script is funny because the characters are dumbasses and depicted thus, and they bring a chaotic dumbass energy to everything they do, and it's great.
Truly so.
And that has nothing to do with whether or not they're moral or good. In fact, in many ways, you're correct. It does undermine the central premise of the movie that it's full wall to wall with idiots.
That everybody's an idiot. No one. I mean, the only person you could argue to be genuinely not an idiot in this film is Smecker.
Yeah.
Like, everyone else. I mean, like even the brothers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
No, 100%.
Like the way that they're presented, especially in the action scene with the mob bosses, is just like they fully just luck into it, right? And even Smecker is like, this kind of fighting comes from people who know how to fight from watching TV.
Yeah, this is television. Like, little assault guys creeping through the vents. Nobody really does that.
Professionals don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. In a way. So there is a thing about comparing this to Fight Club in another way. Fight Club and several other movies that I've heard discussed. There's a thing where if you don't do satire good enough, where you eventually kind of just make a movie that to a huge number of people just proposes the exact thing that you are satirizing.
Trying to satire.
Yeah, like you have functionally done the same thing as if you made as if you just did the movie straight.
Uncritical film.
Yeah,
right.
And
it's the Starship Troopers thing, right?
Yeah, and that's next Saturday. I'm talking about Starship. I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna cut this bit. We'll come back in a second. But literally, I got 3 minutes into the audiobook of Starship Troopers, and I had to start texting Jack being like, I am going to fucking unleash on you in a few weeks. Because like, I did not make it very far. I haven't even watched the movie yet, and I'm already fucking going crazy. I have like, we went 2.5 hours on Sucker Punch with me and Jack the other day. And when they agreed to when they're like, oh, I want to do Starship Troopers, I'm like, it's entirely possible that might be a 3-hour podcast.
This is going to be 3 hours long.
I'm gonna check in with them before, be like, have you eaten? Are we good? Because okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So is there? Okay. I think we've covered. I think we've litigated. Boondock Saints.
We did, but I did just realize a thing that I need to bring up.
This
because the thing that we realized is the as I said, the one smart man who is also the effeminate, like gay man, right? The one guy who is not a dumb, hyper masculine man.
Yeah.
His whole arc is coming around to the idea that, the dumb, hyper masculine men are right.
Yes.
I should do what they're saying.
Yeah.
I should fall in line with the dumb, hyper masculine idiot.
Yeah. That's
right.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
Like, which I hadn't put together until just this moment. And it is really,
that being said,
espousing a viewpoint.
It does. Although I'm not entirely sure that, like, he doesn't step into the room talking about truth and justice and making the system work and how you need to.
He doesn't, but he does specifically organize allowing them to do it. And look, if you're telling me those two guys came up with that whole speech and standing on the rafters without the help of man who listens to classical music while doing crime scenes, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
He workshopped that speech with them 100%.
I believe it.
Like,
I'm just thinking it's entirely possible that it's just that he doesn't start from a place of believing in the system. I think he believes in himself much more than he believes in the system.
Sure, I can buy that. And I think that makes him open to the ideology here, right? But he explicitly has to be convinced by the priest under false pretenses, right?
Yeah, I mean,
to buy in with this, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like
but it's also clearly like the last straw to make him do it.
Yeah,
he
led himself to do it. The priest barely.
Yes.
The priest doesn't even tell him to do what to do. He's just like, you feel that this is true, therefore it's true. That's God speaking to you.
Follow your heart, my dude.
Yeah, and the guy's like, okay, yeah, I'll fucking do it. So like, he did not take a lot of convincing, is what I'm saying.
No, I agree.
Yes. Yeah. I don't even know what to do with it. Because again, I don't know what to do with Smecker at all. Like, because the movie doesn't know what to do with him either.
He's such a mess of a character in a way that's different from all the other characters who are messes in the way.
But they all follow a clear idea of what like this movie expects a man to be, is like a violent dumbass who is either a bad man or a good man, and good men should kill bad men instead of bad men killing good men. That's the whole. But then like Smecker is the one variance in this because he's not as masculine and manly as everybody else, and therefore provides like the one note of anything other than this in the whole movie.
Right. He is unhinged in a completely different way.
but nonetheless, like Willem Dafoe delivers a performance that makes me like fall in love with that character, and it feels like it's just him all the way through. Really making me pull for that character. So I don't know what to do with Smecker, but like, yeah.
Yes, and just genuinely, like, the reverse Ocean's 11 thing they do with him is incredible.
Yeah.
It's so good as like a storytelling device.
Yeah.
Especially when we get like him like saying his version of it, which is always just slightly more intelligent and more capable than what actually happens on screen, is so good.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's good. It's such a strange, like, okay, we have to get into one more topic before we go. Because I've been thinking about the way that communication works when telling stories, which is that like anytime you and I talk to each other at all, the words that come out of my mouth are sounds that I have created that you then have to interpret, right? So to make any kind of sense out of the things that I am saying, one of the models of communication is that you make a little model in your head, like a little Scott that you say, okay, here is a Scott in my head. I'm going to think about this. If Scott did these things, what would he be expecting me to do in response to that, or expect me to understand about it? Because like you and I share a culture, and like I make references and stuff. And so you knowing me, when I say something, you kind of go, oh, okay, well, Scott probably means this when he says that, down to the point of like, you expect my words to be English and therefore you interpret them as English. It's kind of at the basic level, but even down to more like shared cultural things,
Well, sure. When I bring up Starship Troopers, despite having never seen Starship Troopers.
Yes, exactly. Now what that also means a little bit is that you have to know that I am making choices specifically to you, Quill. I'm talking you to English.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that I have the little model of me in your head is a little model of you in its head. It's a whole thing.
Right.
But
yes,
what that means when you look at art is that you have a little model of the author in your head because you're trying to guess what the author is trying to say to you the entire time.
mm-hmm.
And movies like Boondock Saints and to a certain extent, not to a certain extent, very much I think of it in my head as the Sucker Punch problem, where like a dumb man who did not mean a lot of the stuff that he does makes really bold choices and does something super competently that makes it
Mm-hmm.
engaging and interesting and makes you think about it a lot. Like you end up with this like dual model version in your head where you have like, I consciously know the dumbass shit that Troy Duffy did to make this movie. And at the same time, it's so competently done that I feel like a smart man should have made this movie. And I start trying to think about, well, if a smart man had made this movie, what would he be talking about? And that's where you get theories like yours about the idea of like, everybody's a dumbass, therefore it's critiquing this whole idea, which is patently not true in like reality, but like is an interesting interpretation nonetheless that you have to, that I am going to probably continue to think about after the end of this conversation, because the smart Troy Duffy in my brain, I can't kill it because despite the fact that there's a dumb one, because the movie is competent and interesting and makes really cool, bold choices.
Well, right, and it's the Halo problem, Halo theory, whatever it's called, where it's like if person is good or smart or kind in one way that you're familiar with or thing you've seen, then you assume they must be good or skilled or kind or whatever in all these other ways, which is like that's not how people work.
Right.
That's not.
But it is how. And that's true. And also, to get the things out of art that you want to get out of art, you don't need the author to be involved at all. You could know nothing about them and instead imagine a creator that you model in your head.
Well, this is why my take on the movie was, this is a critique of this because I didn't know anything about the director.
Exactly. And that makes it super interesting. Like that's a really interesting take on the movie that I'm fascinated with. And I will be thinking about it for a while. And it comes from the fact that you made up a guy in your head to explain this movie, a guy who, because it's a competent movie and because everybody in it is a dumbass, he must have thought,
I can't comprehend this man like without more context. I assume this man must be like using his brain in other places.
And that meant that you brought some of yourself into the man that you made in your head that you thought of.
Because crucially, I do use my brain in all places and have no flaws or errors in judgment.
Would you like
obviously?
Yeah, obviously. But like, because you brought parts of yourself into that model of the creator, you came up with an interpretation, which I think is absolutely valid and a really interesting way to think about the movie. And also, like, it means that movie can mean something different to you than it does to me, because I can't get rid of the actual Troy Duffy in my head.
Well, sadly, you spoiled me with knowledge, and so it can't anymore.
But now that you've infected me with your version of it a little bit now. And the cool thing about art is that like the truth is that like the author doesn't really matter. Like the thing that you take away from it yourself, it's all like that whole process. We never really talked about the author really. We all talked about what we were talking about specifically about what happens inside our conception of the art. And that it is entirely things that you think about within it, and it's controlled by you, and it comes from the knowledge that you have and the assumptions that you make and the things you think about. And so it means that like that process is super intrinsic and like internal to you. And I think it's really an interesting thing about art is that like it can be a window to the author's psyche, depending on what you know, but it can also be a window to your own thoughts. And like, you can, when you connect with something, you can use that as a way to interrogate, well, why did I like that? Why did I think that? What did that say about me that I liked it that way? And that's like the best thing that art can do, is like teach you about yourself, you know? So we've accidentally been smart for a minute. So fuck that. Let's just like go out on a high note.
We did it.
All right. If people want to find you on the web, Quill, where should they go?
The best place to find me is, I guess, Blue Sky, where I am at polyamorous_Q. You can find my game design work on itch.io at quintessentialgaming.itch.or itch.io/quintessentialgaming something. Search for me on there. It's easier. I don't Yeah, I mean, if you find me on Blue Sky, you'll mostly find me retweeting depressing shit about politics these days, because that's what my Blue Sky feed is.
And if you've listened to all 3 episodes with Quill in them and you haven't listened to Unspeakable Distance, you should go listen to Unspeakable Distance.
Listen, it's good.
And it'll prep you for As and West, and it'll give us more pressure to put on Jack and Sam to actually make that shit.
I'm so excited to watch As and West. I'm waiting for Jack and
No, that they will. We need to pressure them to work, because like that's the whole point of like I started a whole fucking podcast so that
I was gonna say you have a whole podcast
that's just peer pressure to make them work.
Yeah.
If Sam and Jack, we know that you're going as fast as possible. Like literally, like Jack's moving like right now as we do this. So like
they have to write scripts before they know if they need to have anybody.
It's all good. We love y'all. So all right, we've almost hit the 2-hour mark, so I'm just gonna call it there. Bye.
Fair. Bye.
Well, thank you, audience, for sticking around all the way through whatever that was. And thank you to Quill for listening to me ramble and going absolutely apeshit with me about this fuck-ass movie. If you want something a little bit more palate cleansing, but all the more confusing, join us next time where we're going to be talking to Hera Alexander about Guy Ritchie's Revolver? Oh, jeez. Okay, well, I mean, we got to have a good one someday, right? Anyway, bye. Let's Get Weird About is a production of the Library of Cursed Knowledge.